So today is week 12 of COMP3025. This is our last day of kind of new development with Android. Next week, we're going to have app demos, and then in 2 weeks, we're going to have our final exam. I think I mentioned this already. The format of the final exam will be very similar to the format of the midterm exam. It's an open book practical exam. We're going to focus on things we've done since the midterm. Obviously, some of the basic things like setting up activities, you're going to need, creating a project you're going to need to do anyway. But we're more going to focus on things we've covered since the midterm. Okay. So I'm going to get my app running and we can kind of review where we left off with this last week. So ideally, what I'd like to do today is for us to be able to take a profile photo and display that photo in the profile. So if we leave the app and come back, that photo will persist. And we'll have a bit of a trick to do. And then we'll add a maps activity, and we're actually going to use one of Android Studio's templates for this. It'll actually, we won't build the activity from scratch. So it'll give us a Google map, but we're going to have to set up a couple of APIs. We're going to have to set up an API key so that we can use it. And then we can enable location services and some of those other features. So actually sort of look like this. This was me playing around with it yesterday. So there's already a map. So far, all we've done is build empty activities. We haven't really used any of the sort of pre-built templates that come with Android. So hopefully we'll have time to be able to implement this today as well. So I'll go and load my profile. We could click our camera and snap a photo. So my photo would display. The issue is that if I leave the activity, my photo's not actually here. I can take a photo, but we can't actually keep the photo. So we're going to need to add a few more methods into this. And then once we do that, we'll add maybe a new floating action button down here with a little map or location icon. We'll use that to then load our maps or location activity where we can work with Google Maps. So we should be able to do all that today. So we can kind of quickly have a look at, we'll just sort of quickly run through what we did last week in here. So we set up a few constants. So this 101 was permission granted. So we're checking. When we first ran the app last week, it asked for permission to use the camera and the external storage. And then we also had a constant for requesting to take a picture. And we set up a global variable that'll store the path of where that image file gets saved on the operating system. This code was already here from before. So then we added a default image. So we have our camera icon in our image view when our activity loads. And then we set a on click. When we clicked the icon, we called take picture. We also had two checks. First, we check if permission to use the camera and the storage is already granted. And if it's not, then we wrote this request permission method. So ask the user can we use the camera and can we use external storage? So because I already granted these permissions once, they're set in my app. If we go into the if we look at the settings, well, actually, if I just click here, if I click on my app and choose info, we can see that the permissions for camera and storage are already granted because I got that, made that request last week and I already accepted that. So if I remove these permissions here, then it would prompt me for those again the next time. But they're already stored from last week in my emulator. And we overrode the request permission event that said if permission for both the camera and storage were granted, then we would call our take picture method. So in here, we're using an explicit intent for an image capture, basically use the camera. And we've written a separate method called create image file. So in here, we used the date and time. We checked in the pictures directory and we said, if there isn't a pictures directory, create it, and then make a temporary file with the timestamp and a .jpg, and then we stored the path and we've sent the image back. So then we used the file provider class and started a separate intent, a media storage, and that actually allows us to then grab the URI and try to save that file to the file system. And if our file, if we properly go ahead and use the camera and everything works, we're then going to grab that path to the file and display it in our activity. So this is everything we did that last week. So we can take and display a photo. But as soon as we leave the activity, the photo's gone. So we're going to need, I think we're going to need 3 more methods we're going to add. Okay. The other thing that we want to do is not only do we want to store a copy of the file in the file system, but we also sometimes can get a permission issue that our app can't necessarily read that file later on. So our app also has its own storage. So we're going to make a copy of this file that belongs to our app storage. So if we uninstall the app, that copy of the file gets removed. So we'll save a copy of photo to app's internal storage. So we'll call it save to internal storage, and it will take in a bitmap. And this will return a string. One thing I didn't notice that I discovered the other day, so I could hit Alt-Enter here to reference this file. We can actually turn on in Android Studio automatic imports. So if we reference a class that our activity hasn't imported, we can get it to automatically do this. So if we click on File and Settings, under, I believe it's under, hang on, let's see if it's under Editor or maybe it's under Build. So if you go to File Settings, Editor, General, under Auto Import for Kotlin, if I check Add Unambiguous Imports on the Fly, that means if I add a bitmap class, I don't have, there's no reference to it. So long as there's only one library with that bitmap class, it'll automatically add the import statement. I don't need to click Alt-Enter to manually add the reference. So under File Settings, Editor, General, Auto Import, I'm going to enable this for Kotlin. So I just check this box. So now it's going to automatically resolve my bitmap reference. So it'll add there's my class. Automatically adds import android.graphics.bitmap. So you don't have to turn that on. I think it's kind of a useful feature, saves us a little bit of time. We'll let the editor. Now, it also said that setting said add unambiguous imports, meaning if we add something like file, well, there's a file object in several different Android classes. So it's not going to do any automatic import in that case. We're going to have to specify which library we're importing that class from. So we're going to use a context wrapper class. And now my class turned red, it automatically imports that class. We want to make a directory. We're going to set this to mode private. So this means no other apps can access the files that belong to this app. So if we upload a photo in the Fire Music app, you can't use this photo in some other app. It's local to our own application. And then what we'll do is we'll take a local copy of our image file and we'll just call it profile.jpg. Because the user can only have one profile photo. So we're going to set up to save. We're creating an image directory locally in our app, and we're going to save a copy of our image. So we'll initialize a stream, and then we'll try to copy this file to local storage. We're going to use the stream to write a copy of the image file. So here we'll just show a message. Maybe with my toast. The other thing we're going to want to do is compress. So we'll compress the bitmap. Okay, well, I'm back after this long break. I'll make a note in the video that I don't know when it went out, but it comes back just before 29 minutes. Okay, so I'm going to run this and at least see if I can run it without an error now. Now that I have my connectivity back. So we won't see any changes yet. But if I take a picture, it is going to try to call our safety internal storage method. So hopefully that can run without crashing. So there is a little option that says press Alt to move the camera. So if I press Alt, I can move it around. Lovely shot of the ceiling. So I'll accept that one. Okay, so it's showing me the photo. There's nothing in my log indicating a problem with saving that image to internal storage. Now we may be able to see it on the device. Let's check if we can actually see. So there's a couple places. We go into Photos. This is the external storage. Okay, so it's not being stored. Oops. Let's see if we go into our files. Okay, here's my app. Files, pictures. So there are files here. My emulator is not being very kind at letting us see them. Okay, so here are the files we took. So they're stored. And here's the one I just took of my lovely ceiling photo. So this is our temp. These are our temp files that have our date and time stamp. Can you guys get online or not yet? Yes? Okay. So this method and the call to it is on GitHub now. So in my activity result, we've added this try catch block that makes our call to save internal storage that tries to generate a profile.jpg photo. So now we want to save the photo to Firebase. Unfortunately, the Firebase console, it doesn't show us. So even though there's a photo attribute, a photo URL attribute in the Firebase console, you can't actually see it. So if I open up my database and we look, it never actually shows us, it doesn't even show us the photo names. So if I go into my authentication and look at the users, this is all it actually shows us. There's no way for us to see any additional properties, unfortunately. But we can attach the photo. Actually, I'm not even sure that we really need to attach the photo because we're just going to call it profile, and then when it loads, we can. Oh, like, sorry, I guess we do want to. We'll call it save profile photo. And this method will need the URI to the photo. Now we're going to need our Firebase user. I don't think we have that anywhere. Oh, yes, we do. Sorry. Where's the Firebase user declared? It's not declared at the class level. I think our Firebase user is declared, yeah, in here, in our onCreate method. So we want to make this object global. So on line 94, we're declaring our user with Firebase auth.getInstance.current user. I'm going to move this up to a class level variable so that we can also access it in our save photo method. So I'm just going to cut that and redeclare it up here. So now that user object is global, and we can use it anywhere in the class. So it was in onCreate. You can just search for val user. You'll see where it's declared. Let's move that outside the method so it's public in the class. I should say global, not public. So then we can reuse this user object in our new method. So Firebase has a class called user profile change request. And this allows us to append together a series of changes to the profile. So for example, we can set a display name or set the photo URI. So obviously we want to call set photo URI here. So we're going to set photo URI with our incoming URI parameter. And then we call that build. So we're using the builder because we can make multiple sets. We could set the display name. We can set multiple attributes. And then we want to commit. We want to set up the profile update with the photo URI. And then we want to commit the Firebase. So we have a built-in update profile method. And we pass in our updated profile object. And it's got an on-complete listener. Where we can check for a result. So we'll override on-complete. If it works, so if our task is successful, we'll just show a message saying image saved to Firebase. We're going to try to update Firebase, and the on-complete listener will tell us if that process is successful or not. So this method's never actually executed. So after we save the file to internal storage, we now will want to call save profile photo. So this will attach the photo to Firebase, and we need this so that if I close the app and come back to the profile screen, we can check if there is a profile photo attached. And if so, we'll load it into the image view. If not, we'll display the camera icon that we have there right now. So we'll need to add some logic on create as well. It says, if there's a photo in Firebase, go and pull the profile.jpg from internal storage. So I will add the call to this, and we'll take a break. When we come back, we'll figure out our demo order for next week. I will in a minute, but I want to add the code here to actually call it. So we're going to save the bitmap to internal storage. I'm going to see, we may be able to use this URI here. We're going to see if we can just set that URI. We may have to make another copy of it, but we'll try it. So we'll call save profile photo and pass in the URI. So we'll try this. We may need to make a few changes around this. If so, we'll do that after the break. Unfortunately, there's no way for us to look in the Firebase console and see the image there. It just doesn't display it for us. I'll try and take a new photo. Maybe we'll do the floor this time. I'm not confident that worked. There were didn't get any toast messages coming up. So it should be gone when I go back. Okay. I'll push here. We're going to have some more to do. But I will push what we've done and we'll take a break.